Welcome to the Soul Revival Podcast, where we have deep and meaningful conversations exploring modalities, tools, and healing, guiding you back to your most expansive soul self. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Soul Revival Podcast. I'm Lindsay Stanton, your host, and I am so excited for today's guest. I have had the pleasure of knowing and being in community with Michelle Camden for multiple years now, probably maybe four. And got to work with Michelle one-on-one. We've had a lot of journey together in the 4 years. So I'm so excited to have Michelle join us today and share her story. I know it's going to resonate with so many, and I know there are going to be beautiful nuggets of connection to spirit that are going to be helpful to everybody listening. So welcome to the Soul Revival, Michelle.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Also, I have to call out Michelle is a community member too. So there's that. She's in the Soul Rival community, which we're so thankful to have her as well. But your journey, I think, in so many ways, whether you're a mom or you've had trauma in your background, and who hasn't really, I think will really deeply resonate. But before we get into your story, as I know because you listen to the podcast, the first question we always ask guests is, what aligned you the most to your soul self?
Well, there's like two or three things really, but first off is my faith. I have grown up since I was little, and my faith has grounded me and kept me, I guess, to the point that it's a part of my life. And it's like without that, I wouldn't be who I am right now. And secondly, I guess the love for myself and others. I know everybody kind of loves themselves and others, but not everybody really learns to love themselves. And that's something that now that I know that, and I'm after going through my journey, I wouldn't change that for nothing. It's like loving yourself is like the most important thing that anybody could do for themselves. And then thirdly, basically nature and water. I mean, I don't probably because I'm a Pisces, so water just resonates with me and that kind of grounds me. But being in nature, and especially like right now, I don't know if you can hear the rain, but it's raining in the background, and that's just like so. I don't know. I just love it.
Calming. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very.
Oh, great. Oh, such great answers. And I can't wait to dive into your journey, because I think your answer about loving yourself is so spot on. And I think oftentimes the most difficult person to love is ourselves. And it often takes trauma or grief or both to get us to go down that path, and to be in solitude long enough to get to that point where we know what we need, and we can really focus on the tools and modalities that we need to be able to love ourselves, even when being human gets hard, which it always does eventually. What tools can we learn that help us, get ourselves back up again, and be our best selves? So I love that answer. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, I would love to have you tell us about your story. I mean, I obviously know your background and your story, but I feel like just sharing a bit about your background and your story will really help so many people listening. So, do you mind, before we get totally woo, giving a little bit about your background and your experiences and kind of what led you down your spiritual path, just to set the stage for everybody?
Well, I grew up in a loving family. However, my dad was an alcoholic, and he sexually abused me. So I dealt with that for about 13 years. And then my parents got divorced, and that all changed. But that's pretty much really what led me into the beginning stages of my journey. During that, though, growing up as a kid, I think the only thing that really I felt besides my family was like I knew that there was a bigger power. I knew that there was God. Wasn't raised in church, but I did go like to Sunday school every now and then. And then, we went during the summer to Bible school. So I knew enough, but that was probably the thing that held me together as a child going through everything that I went through at home. But so that's a little bit about that. And then later in life, in my early 30s, I got married, and my husband and I was trying for a child, and we finally got pregnant after about 4 years of trying. I finally got pregnant, and we lost our son. He lived for 4 days, my son Dalton. So we lost him, and then my husband and I kind of fell apart a little bit. Well, actually, we ended up having a couple miscarriages in between, and then we ended up getting pregnant again with my son now, Malachi, which is another story for probably another episode. But anyway, so after all that, then we ended up getting divorced because I was in grief, hardcore grief, and it literally destroyed our marriage. And it wasn't just that; there was other things, but for the most part, it was because of my grief. And I know that now, and I've learned from that, and I'm stronger because of that. But that was probably the beginning of our demise to our marriage, was because of my grief.
Well,
And then do what? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think like everybody's grief journey is so unique to themselves. I mean, obviously, there's elements of things that you can, that we all learn on our journeys that we can use to try to, help other people who are going through it. But each of us have like kind of a unique, fingerprint on our grief. And so it is challenging, I know, especially for couples going through it.
Yeah. And mine was probably got worse after having Malachi, even though I was so excited. I didn't know that I was in postpartum depression too. And not knowing that, it sent me into, even though I was social and I worked and I did all those things, when I was alone, it was a different story. So that, I mean, knowing now, but I'm also one that it's like, I don't want to go sit into a doctor's office and talk about it. I wanted to find other people that had gone through that. And around here where I live, there really wasn't that. So I kind of dealt with it on my own. And that wasn't good until I hit my journey. And then it's like it all changed. So
A reason for everything, right?
there is. Absolutely. I believe that 100%. Absolutely. And then after all that, I got into a relationship, and it was with somebody who was narcissistic, which I thought I had grown from, which I'll explain later in my story, that I had let go of everything with my dad and all that trauma. But this relationship triggered it again. And when I was going through this relationship, it just brought out so much that I didn't know about myself. And that, in the end, was the final trigger to push me into this beautiful journey that I've had and who I am now. And I wouldn't change it for nothing, because I know that everything is meant for a reason. And I mean, you don't have to know the reason. You just have to know that there is a bigger and better life and purpose for you if you can figure that out. And I wouldn't change it. It's been a hard but beautiful journey.
Oh,
So
I love that. I love that because I mean, that is so true. I mean, when you're in the thick of it, you can feel like, why is this happening to me? And it's very easy to get overwhelmed and discouraged. But on the other side of it is always growth and expansion. And so, when we can change that lens, I feel like it makes the difficult times more palatable.
oh, absolutely.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about your spiritual journey. Maybe you can share some signs and stories that really helped kind of connect the dots for you, and what really blew you wide open, like spiritually. Obviously, I know Dalton is a huge part of your story just from working with you, but do you mind sharing with everybody kind of what those pivotal moments? I feel like all of us have kind of some turning points where our, spiritual doors get blown wide open.
Yeah. So in 2016, which would have been a year after my divorce, one of my best friends that I went to church with at the time, her and I was having a conversation, and she sat me down, and she's one of those people, she'll tell you straight up how it is, whether you want to hear it or you don't. And I love that about her, because it's like, if you've got that one friend or anybody, that person in your life that can do that, it's awesome. It's amazing. And anyway, she's that friend that it's like, it doesn't matter what it is, she'll just tell you. So we were talking one day, and she's like, Michelle, she goes, you need to let go of that pain from losing your son. And she goes, I know. She goes, I've never lost a child, haven't been through what you've been through, but you need to let go of that pain. And she goes, I don't know how you're going to do that. But she goes, it is tearing you up. It's killing you on the inside. And she goes, your joy is gone. Your happiness is gone. She goes, and as your friend, I can see that. And she goes, and I don't want you to be mad at me, but you really need to let go, however that looks for you. And it got me thinking, and I wasn't mad at her, but at the time, it's like, I'm sitting here thinking, well, you've not been through this, and it's like one of those things. I didn't say that, but I was thinking that, and it's like, you've not been through that, the loss of a child. How can you just let go? And I didn't know how to let go. And it's like, to me, I was holding on to the fact that I felt like if I let go of him, then I was losing everything that I had of him. Because my divorce, I got divorced, so I didn't have my husband anymore. That nothing tied me to him if I let go, is what I was thinking. And so anyway, so that kind of pushed me into it. So I thought about it for a couple months. This was probably maybe in March, something like that. Well, his birthday was coming up in June. His birthday is June 15th. So I had thought about it, and I talked to her and I said, hey, I got an idea.
Thank you for listening to the Soul Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Stanton. I want to give you a special offer for all those who leave us a 5-star review. All you have to do is take a screenshot of that 5-star review, email it to info@thesoulrevival.com, and every month we're going to be giving away 30 days of the community membership. 30 days of community membership. That's 30 days of being around like-minded people who are on their spiritual expansion journey. All you have to do is give us a 5-star review, snap a screenshot, and email it to info@thesoulrevival.com. Thank you so much for listening.
I know how I want to do this. I said, I'm ready. You're right. I'm ready to be happy again. I'm ready to move on, not move on, but to let go of the pain. And so anyways, long story short, I decided that, hey, this weekend before his birthday, let's get together with some family and some friends. I want to let balloons off. I want to go to the cemetery. I want to let some balloons off and just have a little ceremony to celebrate his life, basically, is what I wanted to do. Instead of being miserable about what happened to me, why me, because that's the life I was living, was why me. And that's during the 6 years that it took me as grieving mother. It took 6 years for me to actually realize that it wasn't about why me. And it happened for me and not to me. And it took forever to realize that. So anyway, that weekend came, and there's a lot of signs that happened this weekend that I happened to see, especially the day of. But so that weekend came, and it was Saturday, because we went to church on Saturday night. So it was Saturday. I was working that morning, and one of my favorite songs is In the Eye of the Storm. I can't remember right offhand. I forgot to write it down who sings it, but it's a Christian song, and it was talking about being in the middle of the storm that you're in of life. And that song just happened to pop on the radio when I was listening to K-Love. It popped on the radio, and I'm like, and I know these words, I've heard these words, but for whatever reason, that day, it just sunk in. Heavily. And it's like the words that I had thought I knew, I didn't know, and it didn't resonate with me till that moment. And it was eye-opening. It's like, oh my gosh.
It's so interesting. I want to point out to anybody listening, like when spirit sends you, when your loved ones on the other side send you a song, it does hit different. Even if it's a song you've heard before, or oftentimes it's a song you've never heard before, and you hear the lyrics in a different way. And that is soul recognition that it was sent to you from the other side.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially this next part. So after that, my friend texts me and she's like, "Hey," she goes, "Are you ready for tonight?" I'm like, "I don't know." I said, "I really need a sign." I said, "I haven't seen my yellow slug bugs," which that's one of my signs, which happened after Dalton died. But I hadn't seen a yellow slug bug, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I am, but I'm not. So I was driving, and my other sign is dragonflies from him. And it's like after he died, we seen so many dragonflies all the time. It's like they would follow us around the disc golf course. I mean, when my mom would be with me, they would land on her hand and just sit there. I mean, it was just all the time. And so dragonflies is one of my things. So I was driving to my stop. I worked for Frito Lay, and I was driving, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, going 55 miles down the road, I mean, it was, to me, it was huge. It was like about this big, and it landed on my windshield, and it just sat there for a minute, and it turned its little head and looked at me, and it flew off. And I've never had that happen before, never seen one again like that. But it was like, that's what I needed. I needed to know that everything was going to be okay, because I kept asking God, Dalton, please send me a sign that I know everything is going to be okay when I decide to do this tonight, because I knew I was ready, but I didn't know how ready I was. And so when I seen that, it was just like a light bulb went off. It's like, I am with you always. And
Yes.
I knew that in that moment. I knew that he was with me and that everything was going to be fine. So we got to church that night. And something else that, I mean, a lot of people talk about is journaling or writing things down. And we got to church, and I was listening to the worship music. And in my heart, I wanted to write him a letter and explain, because I felt guilty in some ways that I did something, that it was my fault that he passed, and the fact that I felt like I gave up when it was that moment when the doctor said there, it's your decision. Do you pull the plug, or do you let him, live on oxygen and whatever? And so I kind of took that upon myself and blamed myself. And so I was sitting there listening to the worship music, and I was writing him a letter, which is probably the hardest thing in my life I've ever had to do. But it was it cleanse my soul to release that. So that night when we got out to the cemetery and we were letting lanterns off, I taped that letter to my lantern and let it go with it, so that I had released everything that I needed to release at that moment. And my favorite color is pink, as you can't tell, pink and yellow. But that night when we were out at the cemetery, the sky was a really pretty light blue. And as we were letting our lanterns off, I mean, immediately, and you could hear my friends that were recording, you could say, "Oh my gosh, look at the sky." Immediately, as they let all their lanterns first, and then I let mine last. Well, if you know anything about lanterns, and most of the time, if you let them off go like, one at a time, they don't catch up to each other. Well, mine that I let off last after all theirs was already gone, mine went like bam, and it was like gone to the sky, to heaven. And it's like, oh my gosh, look at it. They're like, look how fast that went. And it just like went. And then as soon as it did, you could see the sky turn this pretty pink in the background. And it just went from blue to pink. And I just started sobbing and crying. And I could feel it in my soul that I had let go, but I didn't really know it until the next morning, that it really did sink in. When I was sitting on my back patio, the next morning was Father's Day. And I was sitting there, and I was just getting ready to type something on Facebook. Malachi was with his dad that day, and I was sitting out on my patio drinking my coffee, and I started to type something on Facebook. And I'm like, and as I started to type, my heavenly father, is my father. And, my son is with my heavenly father. And as I started to type Dalton's name, a dragonfly flew by me. And I'm like, that is for me, that told me and that I was going to be okay. And ever since then, I've not had grief over him. I know that he is with me. I feel the love from him. I see signs from him all the time. And it's just a beautiful thing when you can actually let go of the pain. And it's not so much of letting go of them, your loved ones. It's letting go of the pain of it, because it's like when you can realize they're always with you, they're always around you. No, you might not be able to see them physically, but they're there.
Exactly. Oh, your story is so, so beautiful, Michelle. Thank you for sharing. I've heard it before, but it's been a while, and hearing it again just hits my heart. Yes, so, so beautiful. Thank you. And I also really appreciate, in addition to telling your beautiful story, that you called out the struggle with the words letting it go, and that it really was a release of the pain, because I think that's so important for anybody listening, whether you have experienced grief, you are experiencing grief, or if you're just trying to support somebody who is going through grief. Letting go is a can be a pretty triggering phrase, and I was very resistant to it, even in like listening to meditations or listening to an audible. It was totally different context, but I would feel like my skin kind of prickle up like anytime I heard that phrase, because I wasn't going to let go of anything. If anything, I was going to cling more to. And I think it is first to acknowledge that that term can be very, very difficult for people in grief, and being cautious in your usage when you're talking to somebody in grief about that term. And for those listening in grief, that when you're thinking about that term, really, Michelle, the reframe that Michelle used is spot on. It's releasing the pain, guilt, overwhelm, any negative emotions that are sitting in your body related to the grief, releasing that, not your everlasting bond and love for them and their connection to you, because there is nothing you can do in this physical world that will sever your connection with your person or people on the other side. They are always there loving us and supporting us no matter what. I mean, they are there available to us no matter what the situation was here in the physical world. All that gets released when they cross over. So it's obviously much more difficult for us being in this dense physical energy to release, and it takes us years. Sometimes we might never do it, and that's okay. And as we started out the episode, everybody's grief journey is completely different and unique to them. But I love that you just put language around that, and I think that was such an important part of your story, was your expansion that you learned through the forcing yourself to do the hard thing, right? To write the letter, to release the lanterns, to have that hard conversation with your friends. It all led to you recognizing that your relationship with Dalton is everlasting, and that nothing you could do would ever change that. And so what a beautiful journey to let everybody hear. So thank you.
You're welcome. You are absolutely welcome. And I know he's with me. Um, when I was with you going through our one-on-ones, there was one moment that really sticks out where you had mentioned, I see this little yellow finch. And I'm like, oh no. He watches over your son Malachi, and that's Dalton. And I'm like, I don't know, Lindsay. I don't know of any little yellow birds around. And it wasn't until later that night, and I text you later, and I'm like, hey, you were right. I went into my son's room, and lo and behold, he had this little glass bird sitting next to his bed that I didn't even realize he had. He bought it at some rummage sale. And it's like, it's like, so anybody who hasn't worked with Lindsay, she's great. And I mean, she sees things that, sometimes we don't even know or see, but Yeah. So I feel him. My son Malachi also sees him. And, he's like, "Hey, mom, I saw Bub." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes and he explains to me what he looks like. And I personally have not really seen him since he passed. But it's not that I won't. I just don't know that I'm ready yet and or that it's meant for me yet. So anybody who's out there that, don't give up on it. It's such a beautiful journey. And when you can love yourself and realize no matter what you've gone through, that life is so much better when you see it through a different lens. It really is. And it's instead of, being in the dark, it's like, I think of, well, my little moon, but it's like, even at nighttime, sometimes we don't always see the moon and we're in the dark. However, the moon's there. And
Hmm.
it's I feel the same way, and it's the same analogy. It's like, just because we can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. Just because you can't see God doesn't mean he doesn't exist. So, and I think that that has been through my life. What has grounded me the most is knowing. I've always felt that even in my darkest moments, I always knew. And my favorite poem is the Footprints poem because of that. Because it's like, even though we can't see it, we know. I mean, I know. So
Anchoring into belief and faith, just like you talked about at the beginning of the episode. And I love that. And I think this is really, really important for any parents listening that maybe have lost a child and maybe they do have children here in the physical world. I love that Malachi has had so many experiences. I remember when you and I were working together, I'd mentioned that in his sports, like if he ever feels a surge like that, and he told you, yes, that he feels that. And I love that he gets dream visits too from Dalton. So I just want to point that out for anybody listening who might be in that position. It's so wonderful to have these conversations with your kids because they very well might be having spiritual experiences and you might not even know about them, and opening up that conversation and creating a safe space for them to share those experiences with you helps anchor them into that expansive energy too. And it could be so healing for both of you. So I love that he's a conduit to spirit. And I feel like so often our kids are because they haven't put up the blocks that we have as adults. And so, yeah, I mean, Malachi is definitely a channel. So,
absolutely. I mean, he even, has seen and felt, not so much seen, but felt my grandpa's presence as well. And I was close to my grandparents, both of them, my grandma and my grandpa. And he has felt that. And at first, I think he was kind of like a little scared, maybe. And we sat down and we talked, and he goes, "I don't feel anything bad, Mom. It's not like I feel like there's like a spirit or some kind of something negative in here." But he feels it a lot in his room. And I think that's neat as well because my grandparents were really close. I was really close to them. So so it's
of
neat
course, they
that,
would watch over your son.
well, yeah, because he didn't get to meet him.
Yeah.
They both passed before he was born, and especially my grandma, she wanted us to have a child, and she didn't get to be here for it. But so it's neat that he can still feel that and know their presence through me and my mom. So
So, so beautiful. Thank you so much, Michelle. Michelle, any final words you want to share with our listeners?
other than loving yourself, I have this, and I don't know who wrote it, but I have it in my journal. I wrote it. I have like these different phrases that I really like that to me empower me whenever I go to write. But it says meaning in life isn't found. It's created by giving power to what makes you feel alive. And if I couldn't say more, that right there just hits because it's like you have to find what gives you happiness, what makes you feel alive, what resonates with you. And if it's a person or things that don't, then you need to get rid of that and so that you can learn to love yourself and share that because I've had the opportunity of helping so many people going through what I went through. And it's like I didn't know that I was going to be a healer in that aspect of life, because you don't think of it like that sometimes, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, because if I can just help one person by what I've gone through, then it was meaningful, and so love yourself and heal yourself so that you can help other people go through the same thing, because there's somebody else out there, I guarantee you, that has been through what you've been through, and you never know when that person's going to cross your path.
So true. And you are such an amazing example for Malachi, and you get to show up for him in such beautiful ways because of all the very hard, deep work that you've done. So kudos to you for doing the hard work. It's they call it hard work for a reason. And I think, your story is one of absolute resilience and strength, and it's so empowering for others to hear, because you really did dig in and do the hard work and have gotten on the other side of it, and I think are such a force, and you have so many things to share with so many people that I feel like are such a blessing. So I'm very privileged to have gotten to know you, Michelle, and be on this journey with you. And I am positive that everybody listening will have felt the same way from this episode.
Thank you. I appreciate those kind words, and I'm glad that I could be here to do this.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
If this episode resonated with you, that's not a coincidence. That is Spirit leading you to where you are meant to be. Choose soul expansion, choose community, choose growth. Join us at our sacred community where healing is better because we do it together. Go to www.thesoulrevival.com.